I thought it was just a work trip, until he locked the door behind us. Vanessa didn't come from privilege. She had clawed her way through commission-based roles, cold calls, unpaid internships, and the kind of casual misogyny that passed for mentorship in corporate sales. At 29, she was finally gaining ground. 3 months ago, she'd landed her first promotion, territory manager for a rising tech firm. The title felt good, solid, a reward earned through pure grit. She lived alone in a high-rise apartment on the edge of the city. With neutral-colored walls, fresh orchids by the kitchen window, and a calendar filled with checklists. Vanessa liked routine. She liked knowing what came next. Taylor, her direct manager, didn't fit in the boxes she built around herself. He was charismatic, smooth in a way that made even the most cynical clients lean forward. 46. Divorced. His suits always tailored, his charm always calibrated, never overbearing, always slightly amused. He was the kind of man who knew exactly when to wink. And he seemed to like Vanessa. At first, it was professional. "You've got instincts," he told her after a tense meeting. "The others try too hard. You just know." Then came the public praise. During team huddles, he'd nod toward her like a secret weapon. Vanessa saved that deal. Hell, she saved this quarter. She smiled, awkwardly, unsure how to handle the attention. No one else on the team ever said anything directly, but she felt the shift. The slight distance, the unreadable looks. Then came the assignments, high-profile clients, last-minute strategy pivots, deals that suddenly needed her presence, even if it meant flying on short notice. "You're my ace," Taylor said once, tapping the table lightly. "My closers know how to win. And you know how to close." She laughed, nervously. She told herself it was just management speak, that she was being paranoid. Then came the Da Nang trip. It was a Friday when he called her into his office. The blinds were half closed, letting in a filtered haze of late afternoon light. He leaned against the desk with the same casual authority he always carried. "Got a situation," he said. "Big client, high value, they've got cold feet, and we're not losing this one." She nodded, already checking her mental schedule. "Flights tonight," he added. "Just us two. I tried to get more rooms. But everything's packed. There's a suite, though, separate sitting area. Should be fine." Vanessa hesitated. "It's urgent," he said quickly. "You're the only one I trust to handle this. I wouldn't ask otherwise." She didn't want to disappoint. Not when she was finally being seen. Not when this account could be her ticket to something even bigger. So she nodded. "Of course," she said. "I'll pack light." On the plane, he was his usual self, easy, confident, warm in a way that walked the line between mentorship and something else. He ordered her wine, made jokes about difficult clients, told stories about early career battles, adding, "You remind me of me when I started. Except smarter." She smiled, even laughed, but something in her chest sat strangely still. She told herself it was turbulence, just nerves. When they arrived at the hotel, it was late. The lobby was sleek, quiet, modern. A pianist played something soft and meaningless. The receptionist handed Taylor the key and smiled too widely. "Only one suite left." "Huh?" he said, looking at Vanessa. "Guess we'll survive." She gave a polite smile. It didn't reach her eyes. The suite was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows, a king-size bed, and a couch in the separate lounge area. Room service menus, 2 glasses already set on the table. She wheeled her suitcase in and paused. "I'll take the couch," she offered. He chuckled. "Relax. We're not 20. You can have the bed. I don't bite." Something about the way he said it made her stomach knot. He poured a drink, sat too close on the edge of the couch, started talking again about the client, about the company, about how people like her don't come around often, about how the world chews up women like her unless someone steps in to protect them. "You know I've got your back, right?" he said, swirling the drink in his hand. She nodded, but she couldn't meet his eyes. Later that night, when she stepped out of the bathroom, towel in hand. She noticed the door to the suite was latched from the inside. Not just closed, locked. She froze. And in that moment, every compliment, every delayed glance, every thinly veiled remark began to stitch itself into a pattern she could no longer ignore. She had walked into something she didn't fully understand. But now she was in it. And there was no turning back. The first evening unfolded with polite silence and champagne. After a long client dinner, Vanessa returned to the suite with Taylor. She kicked off her heels and tried to ignore the throb behind her temples. The meeting had gone well, better than expected, but there was something about being in that shared suite, its plush quiet. The singular hum of city lights through the window, that made her feel like she was being watched. Even when she wasn't, Taylor poured 2 glasses of red wine from a bottle that had been chilling in the minibar. "To landing a whale," he said, lifting his glass. She hesitated. "To closing," she replied, touching her rim to his before taking a sip. The conversation started with business, debriefing the client's hesitations, anticipating next steps, but somewhere between the second and third glass, the tone shifted. Taylor leaned back, loosened his tie, and studied her. "You know," he said, "a lot of people would kill to be where you are right now." Vanessa smiled politely. "It's a good opportunity." He tilted his head. "Ever wonder why I picked you? Why I fought to promote you so fast?" She paused, setting her glass down. "I assumed it was because I delivered results." He gave a low chuckle. "Sure, that's part of it." The silence stretched. Then he added, "Do you really think I went to all that trouble just for numbers?" She shifted. "I think I need some air." When she stood, he stayed seated, watching her. His voice dropped, smooth and measured. "Before you go, you should know, I have the room mid." She turned. "What?" He gestured casually toward the decorative vase near the TV. "Just in case. For insurance." Her heart pounded. "Are you serious? Don't look so shocked. We've been talking all night. Laughing, drinking. It wouldn't look great on video, would it?" She stared at him, frozen. "Relax," he said, rising slowly. "I haven't done anything, not yet, but think about your options. You're good, Vanessa. You could go far. But you know how fast reputations get ruined. One clip, one misunderstanding, and everything changes." She stepped back, hand instinctively reaching for her bag. He held up both hands. "No pressure, just think about it. One short video, and we never speak of this again. We close the deal, go back home, and your career keeps climbing. Simple." Vanessa didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the bed, fully clothed, staring at the door. Every creak from the hallway, every gust of wind from the air conditioner made her flinch. Her phone was in her hand, but she couldn't bring herself to call anyone. What would she say? That her boss had implied something, shown her a vase, hinted at a recording? That wasn't proof. That wasn't enough. She opened her gallery and reviewed every selfie, every presentation photo she'd ever taken with Taylor. Did she look too happy? Too close? She scrolled, deleting a few out of instinct. Then, as if caught by her own shame, she stopped and dropped the phone beside her. Morning came too soon. Taylor emerged from the master room, suit pressed, hair gelled, as if nothing had happened. He whistled a tune she couldn't place. "Breakfast downstairs?" he asked cheerfully. She shook her head, voice caught in her throat. "Suit yourself," he said, pocketing his phone. "Let's check out by 10. In the car to the airport. She sat in silence, watching the scenery blur past. He scrolled through his emails beside her, occasionally laughing at something on screen. It was as though the night before had evaporated. Just another hotel, another deal, another assistant. On the flight, she sat by the window. Taylor leaned slightly into her space and whispered, "DA next month. The hotel there has a beautiful view. You'll love it." Her fingers clenched the seatbelt. She said nothing. When she got home, her apartment felt colder than usual. The silence was deafening. Her suitcase sat unopened for hours. That night, as she lay in bed, her phone buzzed. "Great teamwork. Let's schedule DA next month. Should be another big win." She stared at the message. nausea rising in her chest. She typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted again. There was no right response. There was no safe response. And that was the trap. Not the sweet, not the wine, the silence, the engineered silence. Because she realized, slowly and fully, that this wasn't his first time. It wouldn't be his last. She wasn't just trapped in a room. She was trapped in a game she never agreed to play. Vanessa stood in the elevator, holding her breath as the numbers blinked upward. Floor 14, floor 15, each chime echoed in her bones. She hated that she had memorized the sound of silence, the space between pleasantries. The moment someone met her eyes and quickly looked away. At work, she was becoming invisible in the most public of ways. She had started wearing muted colors. No more bright blue blazers or statement earrings. She shrank herself, in volume, in presence, in soul. Her voice, once quick with humor in team meetings, now barely rose above the whir of the coffee machine. But inside, her mind screamed. She kept reliving that night. The soft knock of the suite door, the chilled wineglass against her palm, the way Taylor leaned in when he spoke, not with affection, but ownership, and that moment, the moment he pulled out his phone and casually tapped the screen. A red recording dot blinked in the corner. "You looked relaxed earlier, Vanessa," he had said, smiling. It'd be a shame if someone misunderstood our conversation. She remembered clutching the hem of her skirt beneath the table, the thick taste of bile rising, the way the room suddenly felt smaller, as if the air had been vacuumed out. Now, weeks later, she watched her own life unravel from the inside. She had tried journaling, talking to herself aloud in the car, even attempted to set an appointment with a therapist but cancelled at the last minute. What would she say? That her boss might have blackmail footage of her, that she was afraid to open her inbox every morning. She was too tired to cry most nights. Her body had learned to cope by shutting down. One Tuesday morning, she arrived early and lingered in the parking lot. From her windshield, she saw Taylor walk in, confident, crisp white shirt, coffee in hand, laughing with the receptionist. The sight made her grip the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. That same day, she was pulled into a meeting by Taylor himself. "Let's align expectations," he said. "You've been distant lately. Clients notice these things." She nodded, silent. "This next quarter is critical. I want your best energy." She stared at him. He didn't blink, didn't flinch. "Do we understand each other?" Vanessa forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, sir." After the meeting, she locked herself in a restroom stall and sat down. Fully clothed, hands shaking, she scrolled through her phone, reaching her finger toward the HR contact again. And again, she stopped. That afternoon, she saw Rachel in the break room. The same Rachel who had said, "I understand." Rachel handed her a coffee. No words, but the look in her eyes was heavy, something between sorrow and resignation. Vanessa whispered, "Do you think it'll ever stop?" Rachel didn't answer for a long time. Then, softly, "Not until someone burns the whole thing down." But Vanessa wasn't fire, not yet. She was ash, trying to remember what flames felt like. She skipped lunch again. Her stomach couldn't hold food. Her weight had dropped enough that her mother noticed during a weekend call. "You're pale, Ness. Are you sleeping at all?" Vanessa lied. "Just busy. Big account." One night, past midnight, she received a text from an unknown number. "You were beautiful in Da Nang. Hope we can repeat that sometime." Her lungs collapsed inward. She stared at the screen, nauseated. Was he taunting her? Was this a burner phone? A trap? She threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. She curled into herself on the couch and stayed there until the sun came up. Days bled into each other. Vanessa began cataloging things in her mind. How often Taylor touched her shoulder in public, 4 times last week. How often colleagues referred to her as difficult, twice, via Slack threads she wasn't supposed to see. How many nights she fell asleep in her work clothes, 5 this month. She was collecting trauma-like data, measuring the slow erosion of self. But the worst moment came during a strategy meeting. Taylor pulled up slides. One contained a photo collage from recent client events. There she was, Vanessa, mid-laugh. From the Da Nang trip. Cropped tastefully, framed as part of a successful engagement. She felt her chest tighten. Her ears buzzed. That moment, she realized, they didn't just erase what happened. They were using her image, her presence, her silence. And she, complicit by survival, had let them. When she got home that night, she stared into the bathroom mirror for a long time. Then she opened her laptop, drafted a resignation letter, didn't send it. Instead, she opened a blank document and began to write down everything. Vanessa didn't cry when she handed in her resignation. She walked into Taylor's office at 8:12 a.m., clutching a single sheet of paper. Her hands didn't shake, her voice didn't falter, she only said, "Effective immediately, personal reasons." Taylor stared at her. The faintest twitch of surprise flickered across his face before he leaned back in his chair. Fingers steepled. "Vanessa," he said, "you're being impulsive. You know how this will look, don't you?" She nodded. "Let it look however it needs to." He didn't press. And that, somehow, was worse than if he had. He just nodded and said, "HR will finalize it." When she left the office, the elevator felt colder than usual. No one made eye contact. No one asked questions. She stepped into her car and drove. Not to her apartment, not to the office again. Just drove until the city fell away behind her. She moved into her mother's house in the countryside. A quiet place, where the loudest sounds were birdsong and wind over rice fields. There, in the small room she had once painted lavender in high school. She slept for 14 hours straight. The breakdown didn't come all at once. It came in ripples. First, the insomnia lifted, then the headaches, but something inside remained shattered. Vanessa stopped checking her phone. She stopped opening her laptop. The corporate world, with its jargon and tight smiles, belonged to a life she no longer recognized. A few weeks later, her mother found her sitting on the porch steps, staring at nothing. "You need to talk to someone," she said gently. Vanessa began therapy the following Monday. The doctor said the word aloud, "Trauma. What you're describing aligns with mild PTSD. Your symptoms are real, even if the world refused to validate them." At first, Vanessa resisted. She had spent years cultivating control, certainty. She hated that she now trembled at the idea of opening an email. But slowly, she began to accept that healing wasn't weakness. It was rebellion. During one of the therapy sessions, her therapist asked, "Have you considered writing it down? Not for anyone else, just for you." And so she wrote. Late at night, in silence, she opened a blank document and titled it, "Not Every Business Trip is About Business." It wasn't a revenge piece. It was survival through storytelling. A record of what happened. How it felt. How it nearly broke her. She posted it anonymously on a forum for women in corporate spaces. At first, no one noticed. Then the messages started trickling in. A woman in Singapore wrote, "I thought I was alone." Another from Chicago said, "He told me the same line. Same city, same trap." A third simply wrote, "Thank you, I thought I was crazy." Vanessa responded to each of them. Her hands still trembled sometimes. But she replied, because even if she couldn't go back to her old job, even if her resume remained stained by silence, she wasn't alone anymore. One night, she received a message from someone who had been in HR at her old company. "I knew something was wrong. I'm sorry I didn't act sooner." Vanessa didn't reply immediately. She looked out the window. It was raining, the kind of soft, cleansing rain that didn't demand attention. She thought of her old self. The version that stayed late to prove she was worth the promotion. The one who wore red lipstick in boardrooms full of gray suits. The woman who once believed being the best would protect her. That woman was gone. But the one sitting here, she wasn't broken, she was becoming. And that, finally, was enough. 2 years later, Vanessa didn't live in a city anymore. She had settled in a small, quiet suburb along the edge of pine woods and open skies. There was a market that closed by 6. A bakery run by 2 retired sisters. and a yoga studio where she taught therapeutic classes 3 mornings a week. People here didn't know her story. Not really. They knew she was quiet, that she liked peppermint tea, and that she sometimes paused mid-sentence like she was remembering a life that no longer existed. Vanessa no longer shook when she heard elevator chimes or saw a man in a tailored suit. But the echoes still lived somewhere deep in her bones, like a healed fracture that still ached when the rain came. She taught trauma-informed yoga now. Breathing, not breaking, stretching, not striving. She spoke gently to her students about grounding and safety and the wisdom of the body. In her free time, she wrote for a mental health recovery forum under the pseudonym KV Gray. She didn't chase justice anymore. She chased mornings where she could wake up without a knot in her chest. One Tuesday afternoon, she sat on her porch, legs tucked beneath her, editing an article about workplace boundaries. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. Regional sales director under internal investigation for allegations of prolonged workplace harassment. She didn't need to click. She saw the name in the headline. Taylor. The article mentioned an anonymous whistleblower who had provided a trail of emails, calendar invites, and an internal chat thread spanning 3 years. There was no photo, but she could see him clearly, still smiling, still unbothered. Until now. She set the phone down. Did she feel vindicated? Not really. There was no fist pump, no celebratory scream, only a deep exhale. She walked into the kitchen, boiled water, let the tea steep, then carried the cup to the window and stared out at the wildflowers her neighbor had planted. That evening, during a community support circle at the wellness center, someone asked, "Do you still believe in justice?" Vanessa waited, let the silence settle. Then she said, "I believe in healing, not in justice. Justice is a luxury. Healing is survival." No one replied, but a few nodded. One woman's eyes welled up. After the session, a girl barely out of college approached her. "I read your piece, the one about business trips. I wanted to say, I left, too, because of you." Vanessa smiled. It was soft, earnest. "Then we both survived. That counts for something." When she returned home that night, she wrote a new draft. Title: Some people mistake silence for safety. Until silence speaks. She didn't write it out of anger. She wrote it because she finally could. And that, perhaps, was the greatest justice she would ever need.